Hi everyone, I'm Anya. Welcome back to my channel. So today I thought I'd do something a little bit different. This is going to be a what I learned about writing video, but about a short story. And the story that I chose is called The Ingredients. It's by Jason Reynolds, and I read it in the anthology called Black Enough: Stories of Being Young and Black in America, which was edited by Ibi Zoboi. Now, I really love this short story, and in my ongoing quest to figure out how to write a short story, I thought I would break down what it was that really worked for me about this piece. And in particular, what I want to focus on is turning a moment into a story, because in the end, that was what I decided was so striking about Reynolds' story. So someone once told me that a short story should be about a single choice, and I think that The Ingredient shows that it can be about a single moment as well. Now, I mean, of course it's not really about literally a moment, but it is about one conversation that a group of boys have while they're walking home from the pool. And this is sort of an everyday conversation. You get the sense that this is a conversation that they could have just on any day. So on the surface, it's nothing crazy or out of the ordinary, and I really wanted to look into how Reynolds turned it into a satisfying story. So the first thing that he does is he sets the scene with this really incredible economy of description. And I think it's important to note that this moment that he's describing is simultaneously a universal moment and also a really specific one. And he encapsulates both of those things within like 1 or 2 pages, which is just absolutely amazing. So the first line of the story reads thus: "Summertime in Brooklyn means doing whatever you can to stay cool." So this line encapsulates every summer in Brooklyn, sort of capturing an entire season and an entire location in one single sentence and in one driving force. Then, shortly after that, readers see why it's so inevitable that kids would be at the pool, because Reynolds writes, "Kids, in an effort to be cool and stay cool, can only hang out at one place, the swimming pool." So we're getting a little more specific here. And then finally, we get the specifics of these kids, these boys, and this moment in time. Jamal, all head and feet, as opposed to Big Boy, who's all everything, holds the door open for his friends, each of them filing out after skipping the locker rooms. They never shower, never rinse or swap out wet clothes. The way they see it, one of the best parts about the pool is the wet walk home. So we're starting to get a sense of the characters here. We get a bit of description about the particular people who we're looking at. But it's still pretty general, you know, they always walk home wet, they always skip the locker rooms. And then finally, this specific and this general are brought together again in the last sort of scene-setting moment of this story. They're going to one apartment. They're always going to one. A collective dwelling, a base for post-pool boyhood shenanigans. It varies by the day, but today it's Flacco's house. So here we get the myth, the image of summertime in Brooklyn for these boys. They always go to someone's house. And it's combined with whose house is it today? Whose apartment is it today? So we've got this moment in time combined with this myth of summertime in Brooklyn. And when you bring all of those things together, you've got this scene for the story, for the moment. So then, with the scene set, Reynolds turns to the conversation that makes up almost the whole of this story. Now, at first, the boys are teasing Big Boy about a Band-Aid that got stuck to his forehead in the pool. And then they turn to the main topic. Reynolds writes, "Whenever they leave the pool, they're always empty, famished." So this line, obviously it sets up their physical hunger, but I think it also sets up emptiness that their imaginations will fill. And Reynolds, in fact, uses the boys' imaginations to fill this emptiness and to build up readers' expectations and give readers a great sense of anticipation. So, for example, the sandwich that Big Boy describes. I was thinking something like maybe, you know the beef you get with beef and broccoli from the Chinese spot? You take some of that beef and you put that on some bread. And you put the broccoli on it too, right? Then you put the lettuce and tomato and all that on it. But what really makes it fire is when you put the hot mustard and the duck sauce and just a little bit of soy sauce on that thing. No mayo or mustard. Man. Oh, and you crunch up some of them dried chow mein noodles on it too, like how we sometimes do with the chips. Now that's a sandwich. So this really detailed description of this sandwich is really making readers anticipate, you know, you're thinking, oh, like, what kind of a sandwich are they actually going to get? Like, are they going to make this beef sandwich? Are they going to get a different delicious sandwich? And it goes on and on with multiple boys. So the next boy describes a pastrami sandwich on challah, and then one of the boys talks about what he calls a salad sandwich or something, which is, I guess, like a veggie sandwich that white people buy and put on pumpernickel. And this sort of setting of expectations continues even when they get to Flacco's apartment, their destination. So, what'd you say you wanted? Pastrami, right? Randy asked Jamal, his voice punctured by clanging in the kitchen. And then you get the ending. And this is what really made the story for me. You know, the descriptions of the sandwiches were great, the banter between the boys, I really enjoyed all of that, but the ending just brought it all together to me, and that was what made me decide to make this video, actually, is when Flacco comes back. And then Flacco returns from the kitchen with 4 bowls, a box of cereal, and a half-gallon of milk. Don't worry, he says, I got sugar. And I didn't feel let down by this. And I think it's because of all the imagining, all the talking, all of that makes the cereal and the milk feel almost as satisfying or just as satisfying as all of these sandwiches that the boys have been talking about. So as the reader, you've begun to feel the boys' hunger. And I mean, at least if you're me, you can imagine that crunch of the cereal with the cold milk, and then the sweetness and the slight thickening of the milk that comes with the sugar and the sugar from the cereal. Oh, sounds great. It's such a hot day right now. I would totally eat that. But anyway, this meal fulfills the boys' expectations just as much as these really deluxe sandwiches, and therefore it fulfills readers' expectations too. So that's one of the reasons why the story isn't a letdown. And the other one, I think, is this knack that Reynolds has of letting readers feel like they've peeked into both one specific moment and a really universal experience. And so that's why all the descriptions, all the scene setting I was talking about at the beginning are really important. So overall, what did I learn about making a short story out of a moment from the ingredients? Well, I think definitely the importance of making a short story feel like part of something bigger, whether that's a larger world, or in this case, this myth of summer, these boys' ongoing relationship that you can feel will just continue after this moment has existed before this moment. And basically just allows this conversation in this moment not to feel confined by the short length of the story. And I actually think that picking a really mundane and everyday moment is really important, or at least helpful when you're writing a short story. This is one of the things that I struggle with, is finding a small enough idea for short stories, and I think this might be part of it, is that it actually can be really good to pick an everyday moment that characters are not surprised about, because readers can just sort of slip in and out of this slice of life without worrying about, you know, galactic stakes or anything like that. And basically, like, the characters feel that this moment is familiar. They know exactly what's going on, and so the reader can just tag along with them. You don't have to waste space or words or energy being shocked or explaining unfamiliar things, that sort of thing. And obviously this is just one way to do it. I have read some really amazing short stories that have a huge moment of shock, of revelation, but I think this could be one way of approaching it that I hadn't really thought about before. So anyway, so you've got this good short story sized moment. There's like a sandwich here. But you've got this small short story sized moment. And the way that Reynolds really turns it into a gripping story that doesn't just feel, you know, mundane, boring, is by using the characters to make readers get invested and to set readers' expectations. I feel like I talk about this a lot, but to set readers' expectations for that payoff at the end. So basically, in the case of this story, he brings readers into the characters' imaginations, into their hunger, and then that allows readers to share in their satisfaction of the cereal and milk that they finally get as a payoff at the end of the story. Now, as I'm making this video, I'm actually realizing that this story could be read differently. I think some people might read it that the characters are disappointed with the cereal, but either way, I think the reader has become one with the group, and whether the boys are feeling disappointment or satisfaction with their ultimate payoff, the reader feels that as well, and they are still connected to the characters in that way that is so important for making a story feel gripping and important to the reader. One thing I was thinking about here is that a lot of moments just in your everyday life, in your day-to-day, feel a lot more important, a lot more significant at the actual moment that you're going through them than when you look back on them later. And so because the reader is going through these moments with the characters, these events sort of take on a significance that they wouldn't have if it was just a dry, factual explanation of these events. You know, the boys go to the pool, they don't take a shower, they talk about sandwiches, they go home and eat cereal. You know, that's not very interesting, but because Reynolds is able to make readers feel like you're experiencing this moment along with the characters, sort of riding that wave with them, the story becomes much more meaningful, feels much more meaningful. So that's it for what I learned about turning a moment into a story from Jason Reynolds' story, The Ingredients. I'd love to hear from you. What are your best short story writing tips? If you've read this anthology, what did you think of it, or the other stories within it? I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it was helpful, and don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe, and hit the bell. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Bye.